name is Wade Sewell, and I have two students in Harford County Public Schools. I am a lifelong Harford County resident, and that actually goes back several generations in my family. And I'm very concerned about school funding coming up for this next school year because right now we're slated to lose 100 teachers. That's 100 classrooms throughout the county that will not have teachers in them. And at the beginning of this year, began researching school funding with my wife to understand why we were slated to lose so many teachers. And as we researched that, we became more and more concerned about how our schools are funded. Very concerned, and we advocated to Maryland, and part of that helped. We are receiving quite a bit more funding this year than was slated from Maryland, and now it's the county's opportunity to also step up to make sure our schools are funded appropriately. Harford County Public Schools are the worst funded in the entire state. We actually have the least amount of funds per pupil spent on education here in the state, and we also have the largest class sizes in the state. So both of those things are obviously very, very concerning. And then we were talking about taking more teachers out of the classrooms. That situation is only going to get worse. So right now we are advocating to the county council because the county executive prepared a budget with over 100 teachers, 26 administrators, and 24 employees at central office, all of those jobs to be cut. It's about 150 positions that are going to be cut at this point if the county executive, if his budget is approved as is by the county council. So we were advocating to the county council, who has the opportunity to change that request, take money out of other departments. And we've researched that, and there are plenty of places where our funding can come out because all of those budgets have been padded. There's actually quite a lot of money here in Harford County, a lot of money sitting in fund balance, over $100 million just sitting on the sidelines. And there's no reason why $4.3 million can't be found to fully fund the Board of Education budget. That will save about 60 teachers. Very, very important because if we don't do that, those classrooms will be empty and the children will need to be split up into other classrooms. So the county executive, Barry Glassman, is advocating very strongly against the council increasing that budget. And you have to wonder why. I don't know if he doesn't really understand the school system, how much they really need, and how their budget requests are not out of line. In fact, they are very lean compared to other school systems in this state, or if it's for more nefarious reasons. I've heard that he has an aspiration to move on from county executive to other higher posts in Maryland. He is term limited. This is his last term as county executive. There's really no other place for him to go in county government. So, if in fact he is being very lean with the school system in an effort for political points, I really can't tolerate that because it is my children's education and your children's education and the future of this county that's at stake. And educated students make for better citizens and less crime and less drug abuse. The opioid epidemic is rampant, as we know. We do not want that to get worse. So it takes funding right now to impact later years. So Glassman had the opportunity to speak to Fox 45 this past Monday on the Your Voice segment, and I'd like to have an opportunity to add some comments and round out some things that he said. A lot of things were missing and just didn't include all the information that you need. So here it is.
From a countywide budget approval, threatening teachers' jobs to mental health safety classes, and awards for a century trail. Here now for this week's Your Voice, Harford County Executive Barry Glassman. Thank you so much for coming in.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, last week we saw a lot of teachers striking in your county there. There was a march, I guess, if you will, really more so. Teachers and students out there, hundreds of them actually walking. And on some of the posters, I saw that there were some sheeps in there, so they were going right after you, right?
Yeah, sometimes my sheep are not immune from politics and some of the nasty things now.
Yeah, so what's being referred to here is there was a very large rally last week that was for the first public input session at the county council. Almost 1,000 people rallied, and some of the signs did say, "Do not be sheepish with school funding," and that's referring to Barry Glassman's own campaign signs. He is a sheep farmer and used the imagery of sheep on his campaign signs, so a little bit of play on that imagery right there.
But I can appreciate the advocates' passion in this regard, but I think there are a few points that are kind of being missed in the whole debate. And
yeah, so I really don't feel appreciated at this point because you haven't listened to us at all regarding any of our concerns, any of the comparisons to other school systems. Our children do not get educated in a vacuum. They are going to be competing against every other child in Maryland who has better opportunities than them, much smaller class sizes, more programs. So you have not listened to those. And there are lots of points. You're right that need to be considered. They need to be considered by you.
So arguing that they're going to be 100 of them are going to be slashed because of budgetary cuts.
So over the last 5 years, we've restored teacher raises and principal raises with the largest increases in education.
Right there, there's a mistake. So Barry Glassman only funds teacher raises. He does not fund raises for any other bargaining unit, including principals, custodians, and the challenge with that is this past budget year, he funded teacher raises, but he did not fund all the other raises. So the school system had to reach into their own budgets and pull money out of those budgets in order to fund those increases. When you give a raise to one bargaining unit, you must give them to all. This is to protect our employees. The Harford County Public Schools employees are not overpaid. They are not actually paid competitively with other school systems. They're actually paid much lower. So it's not it's not effective to just fund teachers. And this goes back also to the recession back in 2008. That's when teachers' pay raises, all of the pay raises were frozen for 7 years. So that 7 years caused quite a bit of a backlog that needed to be caught up when Glassman took office. So he did have a hurdle to jump over with that. However, it had to be addressed. We would not have a school system if these raises hadn't been given eventually. So there has been quite a lot of catch up, and that's what's caused the budgets to have to increase quite a bit. So let's hear what he has to say.
In county history, this year at $10.6 million, it's the largest in a decade. And with the state funding of $6 million, it's actually $1 million more than the Board of Education requested.
So they asked for $15 million, and actually this year with what you've approved and what
local and state funding, right? So
More
there's
so,
a
So right here, that's not true. The Board of Education asked for a $15 million increase from Harford County. It had nothing to do with the state. The state was initially only projected to give us about $600,000 additional money over last year, and it turned out it was closer to $6. So we did have a little bit of a windfall of about $5.5 million, which goes a long way to helping balance the budget. But because Barry Glassman did not fully fund the budget last year and also only funded teacher raises, again, the school system had to dip into their own reserves, which put us at an $11 million deficit going into next year. Okay, that needs to be made up this year. So we're already $11 million behind going into this year. So with that, it was actually $35 million the school system needed in order to be fully funded this year and not lose positions and programs and that type of thing. Okay, so the superintendent did not ask for that much money because he knew he'd be laughed at, even though that's actually what he needed. Barry Glassman here is taking credit for the additional money coming from the state. However, that money needs to be allocated to the school system above and beyond the $15 million in order for us to keep our teachers.
An additional. I think the third point that folks miss here is that unlike Baltimore County and Anne Arundel County, through our growth control efforts, Harford County has a flat student enrollment. In fact, we're educating a little less than we did 5 years ago when I came into office.
Not sure what we're talking about here with growth control. I see tons of development happening, definitely in at least our district. I don't know what growth control he's talking about here. I do know a lot of students are being pushed out of the school system, or I should say pushed out. Parents are looking at alternative ways of educating their children. Private school, because our schools are going downhill. When you take money out of the school system, which has happened, before Glassman took office, the school system received 47% of the general fund. Now we only receive 43%. And what's interesting is during that same time, the budget for the general budget for Harford County government went from 17 to 20. So as the school system lost 3 to 4% of their budget, the government went up by 3%. So I know Barry Glassman's against big government here, but it sounds like he's creating a very big government when he increases that much. It's almost a 20% increase. Somewhere between 15 to 20% increase of his own budgets, whereas the school system went down from 47 to 43%. You can't take that kind of money out of a budget item and expect that the same level of service, the same level of quality.
Yet we're spending $45 million more. So we think we've sent over a good budget. Dr. Bolson, the superintendent, has indicated that no matter what, because of some imbalances at certain schools, folks will have to be transferred, and that's going to have to be balanced. The remaining positions that we talk about are through attrition or retirement. So it is a little misleading to say actual teachers are losing their jobs.
Okay.
Actually, right now, some teachers are scheduled to lose their jobs. Teachers that actually want to work in the school system in Harford County schools next year. However, they do not have a job. There was not enough retirements and teachers finding jobs in other school systems at this point to completely cover those 100 positions that we're losing. So right now we're going to lose some teachers. We're hoping that the county council increases the budget request from the executive's budget from 10.65 increase to 15, and that will save 60 positions. 60 of the 100 will be saved if that happens, which then guarantees that any teacher that actually does want to keep their job here in Harford County will have it.
It's a good way to look at it. Now, Baltimore County, the new county executive there, just raised income taxes there, saying they try and make budgetary cuts. In fact, he even requested, hey, go online and try and fix it yourself, and I may take your plan. Is that something that we're going to see in the future here? If we still see some, I guess these marches from teachers.
Well, our goal is to continue to keep education a priority, which we've done with historic funding, but also be cognizant of working families and how much they can pay. So that's the trick: balancing what your priorities are and keeping your budget reasonable.
There's no reason to raise taxes here in Harford County. There is plenty of money in the budgets. We have over $100 million. I think it's closer to $150 million sitting in fund balances, just in savings accounts. We're only talking about a $4.3 million increase. In fact, this money could simply come from changing how real estate transfer taxes are allocated. Right now, it's 50% split between ag preservation and school funding. We could go 75-25. The county council can change that, and we could easily come up with the $4.3 million for that one little simple change. But I do like what he's saying here. Let's take a look.
Remind folks that no two counties are the same. Anne Arundel and Baltimore County are growing jurisdictions. They are building new schools and staffing additional teachers. We are kind of in the reverse pattern.
Yes, we are in the reverse pattern because we are not building as many schools as them, and we are eliminating teachers. This will be almost 600 positions that we've lost since 2011, 2010, somewhere in there. 600 positions where all the other school systems are adding. Baltimore and Anne Arundel, he mentioned, they're adding quite a few teachers, mental health specialists, special education, to address the needs of their populace. So we are reversing that in this county. We only have one new school construction project happening. Baltimore County has 8. Now, of course, they are a system that's about twice the size of ours, but even with that, they're building 4 times as many schools as we are.
All right, we didn't get to the sensory
we'll talk about that
trail
next
that you have
time.
next time that you got some awards for too, and also what you're doing with mental health crisis.
So that's the end of the interview, and the key here is Um, I believe that Barry Glassman wants to do the best for our county. However, his priorities are a little skewed. We need to have a well-funded school system. A well-funded school system means well-educated children that will reach their potential, will not turn to drugs, will not turn to crime, and will come back here to this county and lead very successful lives. And we can't rely on other counties to do our patriotic duty and support their citizens. We have one of the largest military bases in the country right here in Harford County, and fully funding a Board of Education budget request supports that installation by making sure high quality, highly educated citizens come back to this county and can lead this country in that effort. What I'm asking is for you to become educated, for you to do research, for you to think about this, and you need to advocate. Tomorrow, Thursday, May 16th at 6:30 p.m. at 212 South Bond Street in Bel Air is the County Council, the last public input budget meeting for this. Please advocate. This is your last time to show up in person. You can email, you can write. That's not nearly as effective as showing up. If you care about your children's class size, or if you don't even have children in the school system, this is about you too. Who is going to be your future physician, your future engineer, your future scientist, your future artist? Don't you want those children to have the best education that they can? Currently, we are ranked the very last for school funding and the very last for schools class size. That needs to change. That's an embarrassment. So please show up, have your voice heard. Thank you.